Alright, so as always, feel free down at the bottom in the comments section, throw me some questions. I'll try and keep up and answer them as we go along. And tonight again we're going to take a look at the Brian's Optik blocker. This is a brand new 2018 model that'll be available for sale in a couple weeks. You can pre-order it and customize it right now on the internet. And we'll also do some comparisons with my existing couple blockers as well, and also have some fun and jump on the weight as well. Check out the scale and everything with this. Alright, so let's jump in. First off, this blocker again is Optik. It's the new 2018 model from Brian's. One of the big reasons that Brian's changed the name and didn't call this a Sub-Zero 4 or even a Genetic 4 is that basically every single piece on this blocker is brand new, and that goes through entire product lines. So we're going to take a look at the front here. You can tell my colorway is pretty obvious here. It's a matte red with red weave accents. For anybody that didn't see it at the time, we did a Design My Pads contest, and the Solid Colors Pads crew won, and we went with the all red. First update here, and we'll compare this to both the Genetic and the Sub-Zero, is the sidewall. Pretty similar in the sense that the Sub-Zero had the one-piece sidewall, but if you look at the Optik, it looks a little bit different. You can see, from what I can tell, it looks like the sidewall moved down a little bit and isn't all the way up at the top. And for comparison purposes, if we look at the bower, you'll notice the stitching here is much higher on the blocker versus the Brian's is much lower. And one of the reasons I like that is that if you look at the bower, you always kind of get that sidewall almost peeking over. The Genetic is much crisper and much cleaner and looks a little bit more like a two-piece blocker. Much cleaner design, if that makes sense. Next thing we're going to take a look at is the Boa system. This is definitely hugely beneficial on the glove. It's definitely going to add some benefit to the blocker, but I'd say not quite as much, but definitely allows you to get the fit dialed in. So pretty easy to use. Pop it open like that to loosen it. Crunch it down like that. And just spin the dial. It's that simple. And one of the reasons it's interesting too, you'll see the tag on here for Boa, is that Boa is a universal tool that's used in lots of sporting goods, snowboard boots, golf shoes, bike shoes, hiking boots, different things like that. So this isn't a technology Brian's invented by any means. They took a proven technology and are the first people to import it over to hockey. So don't have any fears that those wires in there are going to break, because they're definitely proven out in other applications. Next piece we see here is the air pillow. It's actually removable with Velcro right here. It's extremely squishy. It's going to give you a nice pad on the sidewall of the blocker there while maintaining weight. It's going to be Brian's SPA non-slip grip material. As that gets wet, it actually gets a little bit more tackier, so it's going to give you that nice grip on the stick right in there. You see mesh sidewalls, nice breathability inside the blocker palm. We've got some of the air net here, which is going to increase breathability and also reduce weight. That's going to weigh less than any of the different Gen Pro materials we could use. Diving inside, first thing you'll notice is how incredibly wide this blocker cuff is. I mean, that is a huge opening. Oh. A little too tight with my Boas there. You can see that's another validation of how well the Boa works. But you can see how ridiculously wide open that blocker cuff is and how great the range of motion is. Got my custom embroidery logo there on the back. We've got non-slip grip style material as well on the inside. And then Brian's also on the thumb there. You'll see the black material with the lining on it. That is actually X-Static. That is the material that Lululemon uses quite commonly in a lot of their different goods. And it's got the silver stitching in there, which reduces odor. And I've had that on a chest protector as well as my Brian's gloves, and it definitely makes a difference. I had the Genetic, which was the first model to incorporate all that. Diving down to the fingers, this is one of the new features on the blocker as well. You'll see there's an elastic cord right there, and then there's a Velcro tab. So what you can do, and the inside of that is actually attached to the finger. So if you wanted to adjust the padding at all on the blocker, you can pull it open there, move it up, and then it's going to move much tighter with the hand. Or if you want a little bit more space with your padding, loosen that tab up, put it in the middle, and as you can see, both of them kind of come set up on the looser side of what's possible. So you can see that's with it on the loose setting. Let's adjust this and show everybody what it looks like on the tight setting. Again, apologize for any motion sickness anybody's getting on the video here, but it is fairly tricky to hold the phone with one hand, make adjustments, and keep the camera steady. So now I have the fingers on tight, and you can see, especially on the back fingers there, moves much more with the fingers. At first blush, I think I'll probably keep it on more the neutral setting. So let's adjust that back before I forget. All right. Shake it a few more times there, and you can see the finger protection is back. And if you really focus in on those lower three fingers, you can see it changed quite a bit on there. Great dexterity too on the thumb. You can see you've got 3 layers of padding there on the sidewall, but your thumb still moves a lot. Got that air mesh on the back as well, so you'll get good breathability. While we're inside the fingers, one of the carryovers from the previous Brian's models here is that this finger is actually padded in the side gusset. So you can see that's just mesh. It's very kind of soft and pliable. And if we look at this finger, when I squeeze the side, it's got a lot more structure. So that's all padding. So any pucks that ride up off the stick shaft somehow get beyond this sidewall here, it's going to give you some nice padding right there. So you've got that on the index finger, and it wraps around the tip. One of the other bigger changes is actually to the palm itself. If you've noticed, my hand slides in pretty well. I'm just about 6'2". I have kind of probably small hands for my size, quite honestly, and on my genetic blocker, I ordered the old stock Brian's palm, and it was just too big and kind of got to me after a while. So I actually ordered a new palm from Brian's, got the intermediate sizing, and had it changed out. On the old Brian's blocker, just for example, my fingers maybe hit down there. So if you've ever tried a Brian's blocker on in the store and thought the palm felt a little bit big, they've definitely corrected that and got the sizing where it's going to be more comfortable for your average sized adult. So huge improvement there. I know it's subtle, but it just feels so much nicer. And lastly, we've got the beveled sidewall. That's a big difference. Brian's actually had this, I believe, on the 0G. So it's a design they've used in the past and brought back to it. And one of the reasons they went back to it is that it reduces weight, as well as gives you a little bit better balance with the board. The palm is centered on this blocker, which is great. That is one of the things I don't like about my 1S, is the hand position is a little bit high and just always kind of feels unbalanced to me. One of the nice things in this blocker too is the backside here. Got that Defender material. It's nice and durable. Also reduces weight. Stays pretty clean as well in that area. So let's take a look and maybe just compare it side by side so you can see it with some of the other models I have available here. So here is the 1S. This is the blocker I've been using lately, maybe for the last, 3, 4, 5 months. First off, the Optik is significantly lighter than the 1S. I mean, that's the first thing I noticed picking up the Optik, and it was my biggest shock out of anything I took out of the box yesterday. It was definitely how ridiculously lightweight it is. Another thing you'll notice is the thumb pad comes down, so you're going to get much more reinforced padding with the Optik design versus the Boa design. And then Optik's a little bit cleaner design here as well, where the sidewall ridge comes down. You've got the finger padding and the index finger padding, versus Boa gets in there with an extra flap, which can kind of move around. They don't have the index finger padding, so in my opinion, it's a much cleaner design. Like I mentioned earlier, you also notice the lacing looks a little bit further down on the sidewall compared to like the 1S style. And in my opinion, that gives it a much more squared and clean look. I've never actually liked the one-piece sidewall because I always felt looked a little floppy, a little sloppy. As you can see in the 1S, you can always kind of see this part. On the Optik, it's super clean. If we compare this to the Genetic, this is the original Genetic 1 with some custom graphics on it. This has the 2-piece sidewall and a design similar that was, kind of cutting edge at the time, but with this extra flap, which again the Boa has. And our Optik, we've just gone to a 1-piece, more rigid. I mean, that is stiff too. Doesn't have a lot of give in it. I mean that in a positive way. One of the things you'll notice is Genetic, and again, this is comparing it to like 5-year-old technology, has the binding there. And even though it held up great, you are going to get some wear and tear over time. That's just life. You'd be crazy not to think that. It's pretty easy repair if I wanted to get that done. But with this design here, really shouldn't have any issues because there is no nylon material that can be worn out or anything like that. If you look, this cuff, I mean, it definitely does the job. It's open. You can see it's 3 different segmented pieces there. And the Optik has the one big wide piece. Bauer also has that style as well. And you can see here we have kind of a small piece there. That air pillow isn't really that beefy. It just looks like an extra reinforced piece. Versus on this blocker, you've got that nice supple airbag. It's extremely lightweight. And on the Bauer, there is not a pad in there actually. And of course, made in Canada. Optik's obviously made in Canada as well. We can see the CE mark right there confirming that. One unique feature I can talk about, which is just custom to mine while I have it out, you see this giant pad there. That was one of the things I put in just to give the blocker a snugger fit because I wasn't happy with the size of the palm before, and this actually gives it a little bit hotter rebound. And actually, just to confirm as well, the size changes. If we zoom in right there on my older unit, you can actually see the stitch marks for how much bigger the old palm was and where it was set up in the blocker. So next up, we're going to take a look at the weight. We'll start with some of the older units first and then dive into how much the Optik actually weighs. Let's let the scale zero out. Alright, so this is going to be in pounds for anybody that's in Europe, or if you're Canadian and don't do pounds, I apologize. So you can see that we are, call that 1910. Looks like it's zeroed out about there. So 1910. Just writing the weight down for everybody to see it. Okay, next we're going to come up with the Bauer. So that's a 5-year-old model. The Bauer here is still a current model. 2S is not available to the public yet. And surprisingly, it's actually just a shade heavier. You can see it's 2.02 pounds. So let me write that down here in the comments for everybody. All right, and lastly, let's put the Optik on the scale, and that is huge. So we are looking at 1.6. I'll give it a second, but we'll call it 1.62. So it's 1.62 for Optik, and just to try to put that in percentage basis for everybody, I will do some math real quick. But I'm going to say that's probably over 20% lighter than the 1S blocker. Yep, I'm dead on. My math is pretty good. So 0.8. So you're saving 20% with the Optik versus 1S, which is a pretty good comparison again because this is current gen technology. In the store you can buy it. It's actually the same weight as the old 5-year-old Optik. And again, this is 1.6. So if anybody watched my unboxing video yesterday, they might have thought it was bizarre that what I was most impressed with, just that I wasn't expecting, was how light the blocker is when I put it on. I'm a composite stick user as well, pretty loyal to the 1S. I've also used some of the Trues lately, and my biggest benefit for using a composite stick isn't shooting. It's actually that my blocker feels a lot faster just having less weight in my hand, and this is going to take that to the next level. So I am really amped up to use this, and I am not a blocker guy either. I mean, I'm really excited about this. One of the things we can look at too is the Boa system as well. Show it one more time, not on my wrist, and then just show it adjusted. I don't know on the blocker how much you're actually going to adjust it when it's on, but you can definitely really get the strap where you want. So to loosen it, pull the tab up, click it down, and you can see it's at a couple seconds, and that's great. So let's just do that, and I will try and make a video. It is very tricky to do Boa phone and everything all at the same time, but I will give this a whirl. All right, that's it. Boa is on. Can't slide. I mean, that is pretty ridiculous. Somebody just asked how much the Boa tag weighs. Yeah, the Optik's going to get even lighter if you believe it or not. So, I mean, that is pretty impressive. So again, most people sleep on blockers, but I would not sleep on this blocker at all. Anybody have any questions? All right, so we'll just recap maybe what happens. I don't exactly know how you're going to break a Boa when it's on the back side of your hand. I don't know about you, but I've legitimately never taken a puck on the back side of my wrist, so I really think that is a non-issue. And on the glove, it's inside the glove, so again, you shouldn't have a shot go through the back of your glove, hit the Boa and break it. I really think that's kind of a silly question, to be frank. Unfortunately, Dylan, I don't have access to an EF3. If anybody has one at home, shoot me a direct message with the weight, and I can update everybody on how much that weighs. But unfortunately, I've only got Brian's and Bauer gear here. So again, maybe let's go through one more time for anybody that joined us late. And again, fire questions away as you have them on some of the new features on this. So obviously the Boa, the huge, wide, flexible cuff. You can see how wide open that is. Air mesh for increased breathability, weight reduction. Got some non-grip material on the inside of the palm. Got the SBA non-slip grip material as well right there. So as it gets wet, it will stick more and give you more grip. Got a padded index finger right there. So great protection if anything gets through there. Got a super beefy sidewall with an extra ridge right there compared to the older design. So instead of having a two-piece here, got a nice one-piece ridge. Lace is lowered, which for my opinion just gives it a way more squared up look than your traditional one-piece sidewall. Sometimes those can look a tad sloppy. Got this air pillow here, super lightweight. You can remove it, adjust it. I'm fine where it is. Don't even want to Velcro it, move it. But again, great extra padding, some cushion there, and really adds minimal weight. New adjustable finger protection as well, so you can go in, adjust them if you want, the segmented fingers to move with you a little bit more, a little bit less. Again, pretty content with the stock. There's not too much I want to mess with other than probably popping that bad boy off before I get on the ice. Just looking over my older genetic one more time and just trying to think if there's anything we missed here. Air pillow seems huge and a bit excessive for May Miller. So from my standpoint, it's extra padding, and we already just saw, I'm going to speculate, this is the lightest blocker on the market or tied for it. It's 20% lighter than the 1S or my older genetic. So it's not adding any weight, and it's definitely giving you more protection, and you can see doesn't pop out, doesn't kind of make the sidewall look distorted. I don't know why that would be a problem. It's nice and comfortable against your hand, and you do have the Velcro in there, so if you want to slide it up, slide it down, move it a little bit in, a little bit out, you've got that flexibility. So I really don't see any downside to having the air pillow in there. Rickman96, no, this is the Golnets Optik gear. I've got my logo right there on it. All right, any more questions? All right, thanks again for everybody who joined in. Hopefully it's a little bit better than last night, getting used to talking on the camera. Tune in tomorrow at the same time, and we are going to dive into the Optik glove, and then lastly on Thursday we'll do the pads. Oh, one last question. Is the air pillow removable? Yeah, it is. Fully removable. Goes back into place very easy. All right, thanks everybody.